like yourselves that are standing up and fighting against people trying to take away our rights. So thank you so much for coming out today. We have a lot of friends that we'll be introducing, a lot of elected officials that are great supporters and champions. We'll be introducing them shortly, but just wanted to acknowledge our CEOs throughout the state that are doing the care on a daily basis. Thank you, CEOs. And also all the affiliate staff that helped brought all of you together. Thank you for all your good work, and I can't remiss by not acknowledging my PAPESA team, the most amazing team I could possibly have. So thank you so much for everybody's hard work. So we're going to get underway with the program. You all have a busy day, have a lot of busy meetings, and we'll kind of go back and explain things as we kind of move along. But thank you so much for coming out again. Really appreciate it. Your voices are so important to this fight. So now we're going to introduce Oriana, who is a patient advocate. She's going to tell our story. Thank you so much for being brave enough to come forward, and thank you for being here.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. My name is Oriana. My pronouns are she, her. I was born in the Dominican Republic, but raised in New York. I'm honored to be here today to share my story with you and be here to fight for reproductive health, rights, and justice in New York and beyond. The story I need to tell today is difficult, and I encourage you to take care of yourself in any way as you need it. A few years ago, when living back in my home country, I went to the hospital for a medical emergency. I glanced over myself in the mirror from across as I reached for the soap. Its metal outlines were filled with mold. I couldn't tell what was real. I had completely dissociated. I stood there, cold. I was looking at the big tank inside the hospital shower filled with maggot-infested water and realized there was blood coming down from between my legs. I held my breath, splashed myself with water. I looked down and saw what looked like a little seahorse with two tiny little hands. Shocked, I looked at how the drain slowly swallowed it, and it went down in circles, spinning flat. I felt a sense of relief, but this exact moment lives in my memory. I had a self-induced abortion. I had just traveled 6 hours on a bus west of the Dominican Republic, wearing adult pads while hemorrhaging, to someone that was going to help take care of me during this time. I couldn't fly back home to New York where I belong because I was going through a legal process. I couldn't seek the proper medical care I needed because abortion in the Dominican Republic is illegal under all circumstances. I was living with a domestically abusive partner. On average, it takes a woman 7 to 10 attempts to leave her abuser. While in the hospital, although I had technically come in due to a miscarriage, the doctors were trying to coerce me into undergoing a procedure with no anesthesia under the excuse that the hospital's oxygen machine tank was broken. I said no to this and told them I would wait until they replaced the machine or fixed it. They refused to feed me for 2 days. The doctors were repeatedly convincing me and another woman across from me to undergo the procedure without anesthesia. I didn't quite grasp how the hospital's oxygen machine tank wasn't working, but other people in the hospital were being treated. Later, a nurse approached the woman's bed and transported her outside the room. After spending 2 days in the hospital, I was moved to another section and came across the same woman. I found it odd that she was still in there. I'll never forget the gloom on this woman's face when I asked her how her procedure went and if she was okay. As a result of undergoing this procedure without anesthesia, she said like she felt like they were ripping pieces of her with metal clamps and that she didn't know something could hurt so much. I couldn't fathom the trauma she must have been feeling and experienced in that surgery room. In the Dominican Republic, abortion is illegal under all circumstances, even if a person is a victim of rape. Thousands of cases are reported each year of abortion deaths, medical malpractice, and abuse from doctors who mistreat those who seek this critical care. After this horrendous event, I faced medical malpractice and almost lost my uterus. I was on medication for months due to excessive blood loss. I'm okay now and got the proper medical and mental health care I needed. Of course, there are many doctors on the island who support our right to autonomy. Sexual education is not taught in the Dominican Republic, and access to reproductive care and even basic contraceptives is not accessible to everyone, especially people from disadvantaged economic backgrounds. It also has one of the highest pregnancy rates in the Caribbean. No one should have to face punishment, shame, or violence for taking control of their health. I want to help shed a light on these issues in my home country. What's happening in the Dominican Republic is connected to what's happening here. And I'm fighting for reproductive freedom in both my homes. No one should have to go through what I went through and what I witnessed. Yet even here, in the most developed country in the world, so many people, especially women of color, suffer as they try to take control of their lives and make their own decisions about their health and their bodies. No matter your circumstances, you deserve autonomy over your own body. We have an opportunity here in New York to fight today for what's right. A future where all people, no matter what, have access to the care they deserve. Let's do this. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, and thank you for your bravery. Really appreciate it. I just want to acknowledge our Lieutenant Governor, Antonio Delgado. Thank you so much for always being a voice. And it's my pleasure to introduce actually my former boss. So someone that's been a true champion that we've worked with and I've personally worked with for years in different capacities as Lieutenant Governor, even going back actually even to the Erie County days when she was a county clerk. It's a privilege and honor to bring her to the stage. She's been a huge advocate and voice for our issues pretty much forever. And so it's my honor to introduce our governor, Kathy Hochul.
Thank you. I'd like to call up our Lieutenant Governor because we are in solidarity. Antonio Delgado, let's give him a round of applause. Thank you. Thanks for being here. You can stay. You can go sit down. You want to sit down? Whatever makes you happy, LG. I know how hard you work. And so I am so proud to be here once again, standing with the warriors of the state of New York in pursuit of justice and women's rights. You are on the front line. You're the ones that are marching and using your voices and sending messages all over the country in support of women who do not have the same rights that we have here in New York. What's really heartbreaking is that we used to celebrate and acknowledge the anniversary of Roe v. Wade, gather here in a celebration and say, yes, New York was not just after Roe v. Wade, we were 3 years ahead of the nation ensuring that these rights are protected. So yes, we've gathered for many, many years and talking about how we can continue to support the women of our state. But now, after that dark, dark day in June of 2022, the world was turned upside down. For the first time, the march toward progress and further rights in our nation took many steps backwards. We've never seen that before. And we didn't just take that. We stood up. We gathered together. And I want to thank the leaders of the legislature, our Majority Leader Andrea Stewart-Cousins and Carl Heastie, our Speaker, for banding together with their conferences, coming together and saying that we will make sure that every woman in New York knows that her rights are protected now and forever. That is without question. We put money toward our health care providers, $35 million, to help abortion providers be able to handle the influx of more people coming from other states. We made sure that insurance companies covered your right to an abortion so you didn't have to worry about your own expenses. And we protected the providers from other states that might be trying to prosecute them if they're taking care of a woman who came to New York. We took those steps, but we also knew there was one more thing we needed to do. And I called an extraordinary session, and what an extraordinary session it was. Our leaders stood up, banding together and saying, we need to make sure that no future governors, no future legislatures can ever strip away these rights that we have here in the great state of New York. And that is why the right to an abortion will be enshrined forever after this November's election, because it's on the ballot. And I have called on the governors of other states to do the same. Because if they have the courage, individually, 50 states, to enshrine these rights, we can thwart what the Supreme Court is trying to do to our nation. We can set them backwards by showing that the power rests with the people and the power occurs at the ballot box. In places like New York and every other place where abortion rights have been on the ballot since the Dobbs decision, the rights have moved forward. Women's rights were protected. The voters selected the right to an abortion for women, and it is now enshrined in their Constitution. That's what we want to make sure happens all across the nation. So we'll stand up. We'll continue to march. We'll be their allies and make sure that we are protected here in New York, but also be there for our sisters across the nation, like little Katie Cox, a 31-year-old mom trying to have her third child. And what that woman went through on the national stage was abhorrent to me, that she was driven from her own state of Texas to have to go somewhere else for a right that was hers up until a couple years ago. That's what we're fighting for. That's what we're fighting for. And our advocate you just heard from, what a heartbreaking story. This is America in 2024. We have these rights, and we're going to take them back, starting right here in the great state of New York. Thank you, everybody. Let's march on. Let's keep the fight going. Let's keep up the fight.
Thank you so much, Governor. Good to see you. My next guest speaker is our speaker, Carl Hastie, who has been a strong champion and always there for us when we need him. And we appreciate him coming by during a very busy time of the legislature. So thank you so much, Speaker Carl Hastie.
Thank you, Robin. Here we go again, right? Here we go again. But you know, I do remember a time when it was just the Assembly doing the right thing, but it is really great to have, you know, a governor who wants to do the right thing, and also my wonderful partner, and Andrew Stewart Cousins leading the Senate, who wants to do the right thing. So, of course, the great team gave me some written notes, but I don't know if I want to read off the written notes today. So as much as this is a day of advocacy and importance and what we're fighting for, as I've said previously, it's just such a shame that we even have to be going through this again and again. But thankfully, you do have great leaders here in New York, great members of the legislature, who always believe that a woman's choice what to do with her body is always up to her and her doctor. And I think there's no stronger message that we can have to put that into our Constitution. And fortunately enough, voters will have that ability to make that decision this year. I have a feeling I know how it's going to turn out, but we shouldn't take any of those things for granted. And we should be a beacon and an example for the rest of the country as to how we're going to show how much we respect women and how much we respect women's choice on what to do with their bodies. So I'm glad that you're all up here today as a reminder, and I see all the beautiful pink. And I got to tell you, when I got dressed this morning, and unfortunately for me, I don't look at the schedule until I'm in the middle of the schedule. But I was going to wear my pink tie, but I didn't think it went well with the blue boxes in here. So I apologize for not wearing my pink tie. So I'm wearing my pink in absolute spirit. And just know, and you'll see there's amazing members of the Assembly here, but just always know that the New York State Assembly will always be champions for women in the state of New York. So thank you for coming up.
Thank you so much, Speaker. We're going to keep this moving, and so I know you all have meetings coming up, but we have some great speakers to go. So just wanted to introduce another great champion, as the speaker has just spoken about, who's been a leader, who's been a voice, and who has always stood by our side, the Majority Leader of the State Senate, Andrea Stewart-Cousins.
Thank you, Robin. Are we in the house? Here we go again. It's amazing to me. Amazing. Well, first of all, to my colleague, Speaker Hasty, thank you. I said that the Assembly had been holding it down before we were able to rise up as the Senate to, make sure we got the right things done. So thank you for your partnership and for the wonderful Assembly. We're in a good place here in New York, as you know. I don't know where my senators are, but I do see Senator Bailey. Where's Senator Bailey? Give it up for my wonderful Senator Bailey, who makes sure that no matter what, we are trying to do the right thing in sneakers and in policy and in play. But I think that's probably a good place to start. I mean, the governor was here. Like I said, we are fortunate. We all understand, we all get it. We all have been in the trenches for a long enough time to have, sadly, plenty of pink in our wardrobe. I was telling one of the Assembly women that I actually didn't want to have to wear pink anymore. Okay, I mean, I love it. Love the colors, we're all coordinated, but really, do I have to show up every day and fight for the same thing every day, every week, every month, every year, every time somebody gets the idea that women don't have the right to have bodily autonomy and make decisions that are imperative to be made personally with their doctors? Why do I have to continue this fight? And I look back, because I'm the historian in my head anyway, because 2004, I ran for the Senate for the first time because of three things. I wanted to make sure New York codified Roe v. Wade. That was in 2004. And in 2007, I was able to carry the Reproductive Health Act in 2007, codifying it. And the Republicans in charge of the Senate at the time said, you just want attention, this is not a problem, why are you doing this? This is settled law, stop all the madness. And there were people picketing me and this, crazy. And then we started Senator Kruger's brainchild, the bipartisan pro-choice coalition here in the legislature, when it was actually bipartisan. We were meeting in a little room, a couple of people, talking about, moving this ball forward, because she understood that once it happened, we were going to have to be prepared. And now, just last week, we sat in my conference room. Can you imagine? Fast forward 2019, I got to be the first female leader of a conference to actually codify Roe v. Wade, to actually do that. And here we are in 2024 in a big conference room, lots of senators, lots of advocates, and the nation has decodified Roe v. Wade. Does that make any sense? And the bipartisanship that was supposed to be part of our caucus, not one Republican. That's where we are. So the Senate was happy, as usual on Monday, to pass legislation that would protect our privacy, that would try and establish the fund so providers would be able to provide abortion access to women no matter where, just make sure we have the resources so that we know if our hospitals are no longer interested in providing reproductive health services. And we will continue to stand on the forefront with you and push. You heard the governor talking about the resources. We get it. But I tell you the history so you remember that it always hasn't been this way, that some days we had some very, very dark days. Some days there were very, very few of us. Sometimes it looked very bleak. But the forces of justice, the forces of doing the right thing, the forces of information, and the coalition of people who understand that we are not going backwards, we are not going backwards, is what continues to propel us forward. So as you have your meetings today with a whole lot of people who want to talk to you, you can try to talk to the people who don't want to talk to you. However, our action, this day of action, has to keep us in the streets because we have a constitutional amendment on the ballot in November. We do. And that will codify our rights to having an abortion right here in New York State, constitutionally. So when you leave, do not miss an opportunity to remind people that what's happening in November matters every way you look at it. Both sides. You better vote for the right people who understand that we don't want to be going backwards anywhere. And when you flip over the ballot, vote for our right to actually constitutionalize Roe v. Wade in New York. Let us get it done. Thank you so much. Thank you, Planned Parenthood. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Leader. So it's my privilege to introduce two educators from Hudson Peconic, one of our affiliates, Em and Joelle. Thank you so much.
Hello, folks. My name is Em Marati, and this is my fellow manager, Joelle Shantz, and we are health education managers at Planned Parenthood Hudson Peconic. Over our combined 6 years at the affiliate, we have had many opportunities to hear directly from our communities about how needed and impactful our education programs are for both young people and adults alike. We are here today to share with y'all some of the sex ed joy that we've gathered over the years to show just how crucial sex education is to our future. A young person once told me, "You all are so comfortable talking about these topics," which made me and others feel more comfortable. I loved how y'all answered our questions freely and respectfully. I also loved how you explained that love is love, and I just want people to be comfortable being themselves. And that is the beauty of our work and your support. Young people will be more confident and empowered than we ever were at their age. Sex education can ensure that all young folks, especially those who are most marginalized, will have access to this life-saving education. Good sex ed is comprehensive, it's medically informed, and it is culturally relevant. It empowers students to access care and make decisions for themselves that are going to help them flourish. Making sure that their education is gender inclusive, non-judgmental, and sex positive allows us to reach students in a really authentic and honest way. It helps us to build trust and to provide information and guidance. An educator of ours once got this beautiful piece of feedback. I really appreciated when you answered my questions in class because I love to ask questions, but I'm always too shy to do it. I also loved your personality, and it made me excited to come back to class. So thank you. Even though we may never see each other again, I will always remember you. Now, the educator, Isa, is absolutely magnificent. Can't take that from her. And I know that every educator here today in Albany and across the country has impacted students in this very way.
Young people have so many thoughtful questions about their gender and sexuality, and very few places that they can safely ask them. Having compassionate educators providing shame-free and medically informed lessons to curious youth is life-altering. One group who has shown us the importance of these things are people with intellectual and developmental disabilities who are too often overlooked when it comes to receiving sex education. Sex education is imperative to their well-being like it is to everyone else's. I was facilitating a lesson from our IGD curriculum on healthy relationships when I asked for students to share some things that they learned. A student said, "It's okay to be rejected." A key point we focus on is just because someone rejects a relationship with you does not change all the wonderful things that make you, you. Some of the most common questions in our classroom have to do with healthy relationships, and it's beautiful to be able to guide students in their growth of interpersonal skills and confidence. Some of the best interactions with students are the ones that happen one-on-one, when a student truly trusts you with questions after a lesson. One student asked me after class about receiving hormone therapy. They said that their mom had been searching for affordable care and asked for more information on our services. Showing up in the classroom can be immediately impactful for people.
Which leads us to caregivers. We know from research that both caregivers and young folks want to be talking to each other about their sexual health, but neither group knows how to do it. Folks deserve support from trained educators. I was once teaching a caregiver group at a local shelter where we were discussing how to talk about consent with their young people. As I very excitedly explained the Fry's model of consent, a parent stopped me to say that they had never known consent could be reversible. She went on to tell me that she knew she could say no to sex, but she did not know that at any point she could change her mind, reverse her consent, and the expectation would be that the activity stops. I could see she was getting upset, and so I asked her how she was feeling. And she said she was mad. Mad she didn't know this, that she had this right. Mad no one had ever told her. And mad that her daughter could have experienced the same horrors that she had experienced. The group eventually concluded that all of us in that space were there to change that, to ensure that young and grown people alike have the full scope of their autonomy and the support to enforce their boundaries as needed. In a moment that was justifiably rage-inducing, those caregivers were able to feel empowered with this new perspective and information. They had a way to make a huge difference in their lives, the lives of their young folks, and the lives of the people around them. Their sense of helplessness was lifted, and they were committed to breaking the cycles of oppression that they lived within.
The other important group that we work with are teachers and youth-serving professionals who have dedicated their lives to helping young people grow. We provide professional development sessions to help guide those professionals in discussing these topics with young folks even when we're not around. This helps to expand our reach of these topics and helps to create sex ed champions in our communities. However, we have had our fair share of pushback when it comes to sex education.
One teacher told us, "I was really nervous about having a guest speaker come in for this topic with my students, but this has blown away my expectations. It has been great to be able to take a step back and let them talk to the experts." This teacher cared so deeply about his students and this topic and was concerned that having relative strangers come in to talk with their young folks might make them less likely to ask questions or to share their experiences. We worked with him to ensure that he could also participate in the lesson so that his young folks knew that he was a safe and reliable person to talk to about these issues. At the end of the lesson, he not only thanked us for coming in and doing a great job, but also for teaching him some new tips and tricks and some information that he was going to reinforce with them later. His favorite was, you wouldn't learn how to drive by watching The Fast and the Furious, so don't learn how to have sex by watching pornography, which is one of my favorites too. As a final reminder for folks of why we are fighting for sex ed, we want to share with you a few of our favorite anonymous questions that we've gotten from our programs over the years. And as we tell our students, it's okay to giggle.
How do I let a friend know that I care about them, but also that I'm not interested in dating them?
Will putting on a condom for the first time hurt?
Why do people moan during sex?
I saw an animated video of a guy in a pool with some girls, but he ejaculated in the pool and the sperm traveled to the water and got the girls pregnant. Is that possible?
I saw on TikTok that a girl took out her own IUD. Can I do that too?
Thank you all for being here today to show your support of and passion for sex education. Sex education builds confidence, it builds autonomy, it creates more well-rounded folks who understand themselves and their relationships better.
When we walk into classrooms, students want to hear from us. They have questions and deserve answers. It's our wish that sharing some of these hopeful stories will embolden you to continue to demand sex ed from your representatives, your schools, and for all people.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Em and Joelle. Our last official speaker is our Dr. Colt Weiserman, who is the medical director for Central Western, one of our affiliates. Oh, there you are. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Hi, can y'all hear me okay? Awesome, thanks. It's really nice to be here. But I am going to tell you a secret. I really don't like public speaking. Don't take it personally. Everyone seems very friendly here. But as a physician, I am more comfortable in an exam room with a patient than standing at a podium. And yet, because of the threats facing pregnant people in this moment, we all need to be brave. Since the Supreme Court decided Dobbs versus Jackson Women's Health Organization in June of 2022, 21 states have passed bans or restrictions on abortion. Patients and abortion workers have persevered, but the abortion ecosystem needs healing. I'm here to talk about what New York should do to be the access state patients and our colleagues in banned states deserve. I am speaking from experience. I was an abortion provider in Arizona when Dobbs halted care. A trigger ban from 1864 went into effect. If that sounds inexplicable, it was. We were bound by medical rules from the century before antibiotics were in use. I keep a photo of my AZ coworkers in my office. It reminds me of the strength of this movement. Because of hard work from advocates like you, Planned Parenthood Arizona is now able to provide care again. I avoid the term healthcare hero because of how some used it during the COVID pandemic to justify improper working conditions. But abortion workers in banned states are heroes to me. Those of us in access states have two responsibilities: understand these workers' constraints and help them fight restrictions by taking care of their patients. Patient stories are theirs to tell. I do not quote anyone when I talk about work in public settings. No two patients have the same story, but over the years, some themes have emerged. I'm interested in what my patients' shared experiences can teach us about the forms of oppression that they face. Many patients apologize unnecessarily. They apologize if I knock on the exam room door and they aren't finished changing into a patient gown. They apologize about their body, hair, or body size. They apologize when they aren't able to provide a urine sample. These apologies weighed on me for years. I wondered if anything I said or did caused patients to assume guilt for entirely neutral occurrences that are outside their control. I tried saying things like, you don't need to feel sorry, or if I was more worn out, it's okay. And while it's important for me to reflect on my demeanor and biases as they affect patients, I have realized that I am more responsible for the pervasive sense of blame that patients carry than I can solve it during a medical visit. Patients, like all of us, are immersed in a culture that scrutinizes pregnant people and their decisions. Why do patients apologize unnecessarily? They were just yelled at by a protester trying to get to a doctor's appointment that they had to travel to another state to receive. Of course, they feel like they need to be sorry. Abortion is healthcare, and patients deserve to feel supported and seen. When I hear an apology, my reply is, you have nothing to be sorry about. This group's desire to know, This group's desire to know and represent abortion patient stories is powerful. Many people look away. As someone who talks about abortion all the time, many people look away when I talk to them about it. In my experience, maintaining eye contact and connection in those moments is really powerful. It can heal someone's shame. It can also be the necessary provocation that encourages someone to take a stand. We need both to eradicate anti-choice attitudes in our culture and legal system. To plan for a future beyond Roe, we need to protect the right to abortion, but also facilitate access to abortion. As the reproductive justice organization Sister Song states, there is no choice where there is no access. Prioritizing access happens at the clinic level and the policy level. In response to Dobbs, our affiliate increased the number of patient advocate roles. Advocates make the time-sensitive, unplanned healthcare we provide possible. However, all their care is unreimbursed. New York State has an opportunity to center access with the Reproductive Freedom and Equity Program. Abortion in 2024 requires higher transportation costs, more childcare hours, as well as missed time from jobs with restrictive policies about time away. The program will provide funding where it's needed, directly to patients. When patients can address what they need to get to their appointment, our team can focus on their medical care. The number of non-New York zip codes served by our affiliate increased by 100% in 2022. It's not uncommon for me to encounter a southern drawl or patients who show up wearing sandals in the snow. And they're the lucky ones who made it out of a band state. Often it takes everything they had to get here. Every week, someone shows up to their appointment and they don't have a clear plan about how they're gonna get home from the appointment. A friend recently texted photos of an orthopedic office's waiting room, remarking how huge and fancy it was. My response was a little jaded. Ortho has so much money. The truth is, I'm glad that she and her partner were in a newly renovated, bright clinic. But as a family physician, my work is full of examples of how our healthcare system is structured against the interests of primary care and abortion patients. Reimbursement is an example. The pandemic showed us that low-touch and no-touch abortion, in which patients complete either a portion or all of their care remotely, is safe and effective for appropriately selected patients. It's also of key importance to expand access for patients who travel greater distances to seek care. However, when we offer this care, we are reimbursed at a lower rate for the care we provide. Abortion providers have pivoted to meet the moment, and while we wait for reimbursement to catch up, our clinics bear the cost. Increasing Medicaid reimbursement for medication abortion would help close this gap. Abortion clinics are ready to do transformative work with funding. In my first year at our affiliate, we received a grant to support patient care. we determined that increasing pain control for in-office procedures was a priority. We also knew that many of our patients, because they returned to work or childcare immediately, needed an option that would allow them to drive themselves home. This is an example of an access-oriented, intersectional approach to expanding care. Over less than 6 months, we implemented nitrous oxide as a sedation option across the entire region we serve. This change has ripple effects. Since we implemented our protocol, 2 area hospital systems have reached out to us for assistance on how to offer it to their patients. Abortion can be as joyful as a birth, or as emotionally complicated as one. The lack of federal protections for abortion access is an existential threat to pregnant people. How do we look this problem in the eye? I suggest, like I try to do in the exam room, I focus on what I can control. As an access state, we need to be good neighbors and colleagues to patients and abortion workers in banned states. We also need to invest in New York's abortion infrastructure to account for patients' needs as they navigate social inequity and address uncompensated care provided by abortion providers. New York should be a place where abortion patients know they don't have anything to be sorry about. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you for all of our speakers. We have reached the end of our speaking program. I think I've met some of you from Lobby Day trainings. I am Kristen Dart, Vice President of Political Affairs here at PAPESA. We are so grateful for you all being here. We are going to head off into lobby meetings, and so I'm going to just designate corners of this space for folks to meet up by their affiliate so that we can head off to lobby meetings for the day. Lunch is over here to my right. Help yourself to a lunch or come back and grab it, whatever works best for you. So again, thank you all so much for being here. We're going to have